published, 17:31 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 16th of April 2018, updated, 20:57 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, the 16th of April 2018. Many will say that Manchester City's first emphatic Premier League title is testament to Pep Guardiola and his methods, though those on the inside of the club through 10 years of Abu Dhabi ownership had a very different perspective on Monday night. The bumpy road to becoming the Premier League's unrivaled team, it was little less than torture during some of the early Abu Dhabi years, when no player with a global pedigree was remotely interested in joining the club, would have been beyond Guardiola's wildest imagination. People forget that 10 years ago it was unthinkable that City would get to this place, one former senior executive said. Building the club that Guardiola took over meant building a world-class team. Players had either never heard of us or weren't interested in us. Pep Guardiola, right, secured the Premier League title with David Silva, left, and Manchester City with 5 games remaining. City signed Brazilian star Robinho 10 years ago, and have spent well over £1 billion on players since, with varying success. Few rejections were more brutal than the one City experienced when approaching Christian Eriksen, now of Tottenham Hotspur but then a teenage Ajax player, to join the club in 2010. To say he wasn't interested was an understatement. That was the year after a senior City executive knocked on agent Dimitri Seluk's hotel room door in Rome to discuss the idea of buying Yaya Touré from Barcelona. Manchester City, Seluk scoffed. Why should he leave Barcelona for you? Money, £220,000 a week, to be precise. Did talk with Touré, but it was not always the case. David Silva's arrival for £25 million from Valencia in 2010 was a significant landmark in the club's quest for credibility. The Spaniard was not all that fussed about signing. Manchester City have spent big on likes of Yaya Touré, but have also formed a rigorous, scientific player recruitment system. City always felt in those early years that persuading Spanish players to move to Manchester was particularly difficult. Ultimately, Silva signed because Valencia owner Manuel Llorente made it clear he needed City's cash to clear huge debt. The rest is history, where he is concerned. Buying players was like the Wild West at times. Aware of City's need for accelerated growth, selling clubs would hike up their demands to what was known in the Etihad boardroom as the City price. Some targets were honest. Liverpool's Xabi Alonso made it clear he only wanted a move to Real Madrid. But John Terry played City for an improved contract at Chelsea in the summer of 2009. At the time this seemed a blow, but sources suggest that the idea of Terry moving did not always add up. The club, chaired by Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, could not build facilities fast enough to be attractive. Bizarre though it may sound, technical director Mike Rigg and the scouting department he fashioned would meet transfer targets, clutching printed plans of what the training ground would eventually look like, right down to the helipads the owners from Abu Dhabi were willing to provide. Fix and build. City's then chief executive Gary Cook, who played a huge part, too, called that period. The Premier League club have been transformed under the wealthy owner Sheikh Mansour, pictured here in 2010. In the early years, the club, chaired by Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, left could not build facilities fast enough to be attractive. Left to right, Ilkay Gundogan and Gabriel Jesus are 2 recent recruits signed during Guardiola's stint in the Premier League. What emerged from those chaotic early years was something comparatively rare in football: City's creation of a rigorous, scientific player recruitment system, implemented by Managing Director of Football Brian Marwood, in which targets were identified early, with 3 or 4 names for each in priority order. Conscious of the need to offer more benefits than money to bring players to the second best-known team in Manchester, Rigg would give City's player liaison staff 3 months' notice of targets, enabling them to build up a picture of the individual's life away from football, so the club could make their pitch more appealing. The model was not always easy to implement during City's Italian period, the years of Roberto Mancini, who demanded poor value purchases such as Javi Garcia and Maicon, who was not exactly a team player in the new acquisition system. The club's exhaustive groundwork convinced them that Eden Hazard was theirs in 2012, ahead of a meeting with him in a suite at the top floor of a hotel in Lille, after a match against Monaco in which he had played. Silva's arrival for £25 million from Valencia in 2010 was a significant landmark in the club's quest for credibility. Hazard's agent John Baiko was keen, urging City to talk football with Hazard and tell him how he would fit in, rather than discuss the money, which was a given. Mancini launched straight into a spiel about wages. Hazard went to Chelsea. It was perhaps City's most devastating transfer blow of these past 10 years. Rigg left City to join his friend Mark Hughes as technical director at QPR, though his work at City has made him a sought-after consultant for clubs looking to get some control over their player acquisition systems. City are a very different club now. The current director of football Txiki Begiristain and chief executive Ferran Soriano form a Catalonian power base with Guardiola. But the foundations were laid far earlier. Football's a short-term business now, said the executive. People forget what happened last week. But this title wasn't built in a